In the early 1700s, when piracy ruled the Caribbean and the seas were filled with ruthless men chasing gold and glory, one pirate stood out from all the rest, not because he was the most feared, but because he made absolutely no sense. His name was Stede Bonnet, and he wasn't born into poverty, war, or desperation like most pirates. He was rich, very rich. Bonnet was a landowner in Barbados, living a life most people could only dream of. He had a large estate, servants, and a comfortable position in society. By all accounts, he should have lived a quiet, predictable life, managing his plantation, attending social gatherings, and growing old in luxury. But something inside him was different. Some say he was bored, others say he was unhappy in his marriage, and a few believed he simply longed for adventure in a world that suddenly felt too small. Whatever the reason, in 1717, Stede Bonnet made a decision so strange it shocked everyone around him. He bought a ship, not to trade, not to explore, but to become a pirate. Now, here's where the story gets even stranger. Most pirates started at the bottom, working their way up through years of experience at sea. But Bonnet? He had never even sailed before. He had no naval training, no combat experience, no understanding of how a pirate crew even worked. Yet he purchased a fully equipped vessel, hired a crew, and named his ship Revenge. Just like that, a wealthy gentleman became a pirate captain. But reality hit fast. Bonnet quickly realized that piracy wasn't it was orderly, chaotic, and unpredictable. His lack of experience became obvious almost immediately. He struggled to command his crew, made poor decisions, and failed to maintain discipline. His men didn't respect him. Why would they? Their captain was a man who read books while they sharpened blades. He reportedly spent more time in his cabin reading than learning how to sail or fight. Still, somehow, Bonnet managed to capture a few ships. But it wasn't skill. It was luck. And luck doesn't last forever. Soon, Bonnet crossed paths with one of the most feared pirates in history, Blackbeard. Blackbeard, real name Edward Teach, was everything Bonnet was not. Ruthless, experienced, terrifying. His presence alone could make entire crews surrender without a fight. When the two met, something unusual happened. Instead of killing Bonnet or taking his ship by force, Blackbeard saw an opportunity. He took control of Bonnet's ship. Not officially, but in reality, everyone knew who was in charge. Bonnet, the captain, was reduced to something like a guest aboard his own vessel. Blackbeard led the attacks. Blackbeard gave the orders. And Bonnet watched. For a while, this strange partnership worked. Under Blackbeard's leadership, the Revenge became far more successful. They captured ships, gathered treasure, and spread fear across the seas. But Bonnet wasn't content. He didn't leave his old life just to become a passenger. He wanted to prove, to his crew, to the world, and maybe to himself, that he could truly be a pirate. Then came betrayal. Blackbeard eventually abandoned Bonnet. He took most of the crew, the supplies, and the treasure, leaving Bonnet behind with almost nothing, stranded, humiliated, alone. For many, that would have been the end, but not for Stede Bonnet. In a desperate attempt to survive, Bonnet did something clever. He pretended to give up piracy. He changed his identity, calling himself Captain Thomas, and claimed he was now a privateer, a legal pirate working for the authorities. It was a lie, but it worked for a while. He rebuilt his crew, returned to the sea, and went back to piracy. This time, he tried to do things differently. He took command, he made decisions, he fought. For the first time, Stede Bonnet wasn't pretending to be a pirate. He was becoming one. But the world was closing in. Piracy was being hunted down harder than ever. Governments wanted to end it. Naval forces were actively tracking pirates across the Caribbean. And Bonnet, despite his efforts, was still inexperienced compared to the hunters chasing him. In 1718, his luck finally ran out. He was captured after a fierce battle near the coast of North Carolina. Wounded and defeated, the gentleman pirate was taken prisoner. Back on land, Bonnet faced trial. And here's where his story takes one last tragic turn. He tried to escape execution. He pleaded. He delayed. He even managed to briefly escape from prison, but was quickly captured again. This wasn't the confident landowner from Barbados. This was a man who had chased a dream and found himself trapped by it. On December 10th, 1718, Stede Bonnet was executed by hanging, a wealthy gentleman who had everything and threw it all away for a life he barely understood. So why does his story still matter? Because Stede Bonnet wasn't driven by greed like most pirates. He wasn't forced into piracy by poverty. He chose it. In a world where people fought to escape hardship, Bonnet walked away from comfort into chaos. Some call him foolish, others call him brave, but one thing is certain. He is one of history's strangest pirates, a man who didn't belong